Hello, my name is Michael Solomon, and I look forward to talking to you on CEO Insights. All right, so obviously, thank you, Teresa. Good mechanical background. So I'm going to kind of pace back and forth here, but most of you probably know, this is not in my comfort zone as an accountant. You're never going to see an accountant come out of their hole, and I do have a shadow, so it does look like it's going to be a long winter for us. Outside of that, so yes, I'm the owner of Accounting Personalized. We're a local accounting firm here. This is probably going to be the most you're going to hear from me talk about accounting through this whole speech. What we're going to talk about today is most of the failures and other things like that that I've had to overcome throughout my career. I have had a lot of positions. I've been now in accounting for a little over 17 years. Of that, 6 of it was in wealth management. And before we kind of start, we're going to go over kind of 2 things. One is a term that you may hear me use. It's called manipulation. Okay, manipulation in the U.S. does have a negative connotation to it. That is not my intent. My intent is just to kind of say, you know, somebody's thinking a certain way, we're going to try to get them on board to another way, or they're going to manipulate us into thinking what their kind of process is. The other is, which is a little bit more of a hilarity, and one of my current staff members came up with this. If you think of an emotional range as a pie chart, I only possess about this much of it. Okay, so as we go through, just remember, I only really possess 1 or 2 of those emotional points. So it's taken me a long time to get those emotional points, but we'll go through here. The next kind of point here is I am a square for all intensive purposes, and we're going to be talking about a circle and spheres. So bear with me as we go through that. The most outer ring that I have found in my career that is the hardest to maintain is that of a community. Okay, so with a community, I'm going to go back. Okay, with a community, what we're trying to say is who are you, what do you do, what's your authenticity style, okay? I know these slides aren't all that pretty, and there's a purpose for that. The hardest thing that I've had to learn through my career is who am I, right? When we're talking to people, when we're interviewing folks, we're also asking, who are you? What do you do? Do you even know? That's one of the hardest things that we have seen in our industry, especially for folks that are self-employed, starting out, starting different careers, making pivots in their life, making goal changes. Who are you? What are we trying to do? And how are we trying to get there? That authenticity and trying to build that in a community structure is probably the largest challenge that I have faced, again, in my entire career, if not my entire life. The biggest thing of that is trying to find out where in society you fit, okay? For me, I started, obviously, I went to the Citadel, South Carolina, spent 3 months there during their summer program. They called it the College Success Institute before they really kicked your butt. They kicked your butt a little bit. I would not I would not exchange that experience for anything. From there, I met a lot of good folks, got a little bit of military training through the summer, got experience with a couple of the different branches, saw how they operated. And then from there, I decided I do not want to be an engineer as my full-time job. A lot of math in engineering, a lot more so than in accounting. And in my experience, I loved the guys and the women that were there, but I just couldn't find my niche, right? Going back to that authenticity. It just wasn't me. It didn't fit. So I transferred out, went over to Elon University. So, I went from a school that was about 10% female to a school that was about 20% male. So if you're wondering why I made that switch, there was some indicating factors why I was going to go there. But I chose to go to the accounting program at Elon, mainly because they let you go as fast as you wanted to go. Held a couple jobs while I was there. And my last year and a half, I actually met up with a bunch of military guys and was connected to them through the Citadel. And I started down a security career for about 4 years, where I held the position as CFO and helped start this company. That was my first experience with any real business outside of, just being a know-nothing kind of kid. And I guarantee you, I knew nothing as we started that. But the experience kind of showed me this is what the political system does, because I had to go through and get permitting. I dealt with a lot of military guys, and we'll talk about that in a different layer here. Dealt with a lot of military guys that were coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq and other countries, and just seeing the different levels and different acceptance of, hey, I may be in a single wide trailer or something like that, and that there's nothing wrong with that at all, but I was just somewhere where I was living on some dirt, right, with nothing over my roof. So this is, I'm ecstatic to be here. So that change was very eye-opening to a young college student that was graduating from a relatively nice university that had a botanical garden as part of our, so very drastic kind of shift there. Also, when I was in there, I felt there were a lot of negative things, but I found that it was very fulfilling to me to try to help somebody, right? I got a crumb of joy out of, hey, you're having a hard time, let me understand who you are, and is there a way for me to help you get out of this, right? Or maybe you just need somebody to listen to you. 9 times out of 10, that's all it really takes. Don't ask my wife that question if I do that. But what you're trying to do is you're identifying your team. So you get into your community, right, whether that's Gainesville, Alachua County, North Florida, however big your community is, you find out what your community is, who are your people, okay? And then we narrow that down into what is your team? Who are the folks that you are interacting with every day, right? And I generally break that down into 2 kind of ranks. We got our external. These are the people we do not live with, right? That we just kind of see them occasionally, or once a week, once a month, on some sort of repetition. And then we've got our internal. So our internal is going to be more of the folks that we interact with pretty much every day. Likely we live with them, other folks like that. From my experience, as somebody, again, with only 2 emotional factors on there, this is the hardest thing from the community sector to go into the teams. So there was going to be a nice military picture up here, but I chose not to do it. If you want to see it, I can pull out my phone and show it to you. But I had a team of about 33 guys when we had sold our security company. Of that team of 33 guys, there was 4 of us that really interacted every day. And 3 of them were like brothers to me. One of them was like a sister to me that really kicked my butt. But these folks every day were a ride or die. This was the folks that I surrounded myself with. And this is where I struggled today. And this is where, in many ways, was my first failure. So I'm going to try not to get a little emotional here, but so my first failure really was in the security kind of outfit. I was not built for it, just emotionally. And it took me a long time to accept that because I loved the guys and the girls that were there with me. But I was just not very comfortable in kind of the doom and gloom constantly and consistently. You might think accounting is kind of like that. It's not. These guys and girls experience a lot of hardship in their lives. And they saw a lot of hardship, and they got to see some things that really you shouldn't have to see, from my opinion, unless you were in dire straits. But these folks volunteered and went over, and again, experienced some things that most folks don't have to and shouldn't have to experience, and they did that for them. So my failure in this was my CEO, who was, I guess I had known him about 8 years in, had called me we talked back and forth. I had sold my shares. I was out. I was 2 years down an accounting degree, and I was kind of like, look, you need me, you give me a call. And he was just struggling. And to me, I failed in not listening. Right, that was my first biggest thing. I was too involved as a 20-something to get out of my own way. And I wasn't listening to people. And I learned the very, very hard lesson because my friend very shortly after that committed suicide. Excuse me. So in that, it's a failure of personality and identification, right? There may not have been anything that I could have done. He was in a different country from me. We can make all the excuses that we want to make. But for me, that was a failure of myself. Of that group of 4 people, there was only really 2 of us left, and we don't really talk to each other anymore, just because of the reminders and the stress of the others. But from this, when we're identifying our team, we have to trust that they're going to understand who we are, right? From an external perspective. That I can go over to you and I can say, hey, you know, Fernando's a vagrant because he steals coffee from me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, okay? So that's a comfort level, that's part of your team, that's what you're developing. So if Fernando comes in one day, or Steve, or whoever it is, and I see something different, I'm gonna identify, hey, there's something different. Let's take a second. Let's slow the clock down. You know, time is relative. Let's slow the clock down and let me find out what's going on. That doesn't mean we're gonna spend hours on it, you know, but it just means I've identified, hey, there's something wrong. When you're ready to come talk to me, you can come talk to me. And having that open door. I think that has been one of the biggest struggles that I have done is I get very nervous when I see changes, right, in personality. Now that being said, the person that has trained me to identify these things from the goofy pictures sitting over there, that's my wife. So what I have learned, and I probably have learned more in the last 7 to 8 years with this woman, is actually to say, look, it's okay, you know, to see these emotions, right? I don't have to be the hard guy that was with these military folks, even though I missed the 6-pack and the 3% body fat and being able to actually run more than a mile without, you know, getting really out of breath. But saying, hey, you know, it's okay to be goofy, it's okay to be who you are and trying to figure out who that is, right? Again, we're talking about somebody that late 20s, early 30s still did not have a good idea of what they were doing and how they were doing it. I would just say, what's the task that you need? And then, okay, these are the steps that we need to go through, and we'll achieve that goal. That was what those military guys trained me. That's what I was going day to day, right? I was an employee. And I was, even on companies that I was the boss, became employees' employee. I'd say, well, what do you need? Where do you think we need to go? And not that there's anything wrong with that, and there needs to be a voice from everybody, but my wife has now trained me in a very hard-headed way that it's okay to say, this is where we need to go, and let's take everybody with us. Let's show them the vision, and let's walk down that path. So the other thing is the opportunity, right? So this man was my former boss at Townsend Asset Management Company. That's where I spent 6 years before moving to Gainesville. He officiated my wedding, so that's a picture of baby Michael at my wedding. Yes, I know, the beard just looks so much better than that. But he gave me a shot. So you've got a kid that, and I'm gonna say affectionately that I was a kid, still hard-headed, not very much different than today other than I'm older. Thank you, Teresa. This gentleman gave me the opportunity to say, okay, look, we need a compliance officer and we need somebody that is gonna run kind of a tax department. Nobody at the time in that industry thinks that, hey, this 25, 26-year-old kid's gonna go to bat with the SEC when they need to go to bat with the SEC, or is gonna be okay to overview 7 investment advisors and $500 million under management. But this gentleman had multiple conversations with me, and he said, look, I'm gonna give you the shot. We're gonna try you out for a couple months, we're gonna see how you do. And that's all I needed. That was somebody just gave me that opportunity. And that's what we try to do, and that's what I try to do when we're either hiring folks or clients come in or anything like that, is to provide that opportunity. That's what I feel like is the pushover to the next ring. That next ring is, hey, can you do this? Do you have faith in yourself? Because if you don't, I can't match 100%, right? But if you give me 100%, then I'm gonna come with whatever I have. So it's that opportunity. The subset of that is, what is really your goal? And that's what I cannot train most folks that come in to my office. We ask the question, every single client, every single new person, every single employee that comes in, where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? You know, are you a big family person? And that's really what your goal is? Are we just trying to get to a certain amount of money and that's because that's where you feel like you're gonna be comfortable? Are you materially based? I'm materially based on some things. I'll raise my hand on that. I'm a motorcyclist. When's the next motorcycle, right? When's the next trip that we get to go, right? So it's what's your motivation, what's your goal, and where are we going? And can you identify that? From an authenticity perspective, is that goal really who you are? And I would pose it to each of you, if I could ask one thing of you, is maybe today, write down what is your real goal and does that match who you think that you are? And for half of you here, I would doubt that it's going to match. Because you've got this perception, whether it's from TikTok or Facebook or where's Landon with Snapchat? Whatever it may be, you've got a perception of, I need to look this way, I need to feel this way, and this is how I'm going to get there, or I need to monetarily have this, or I need to be driving Darren's car because it looks really cool, or whatever it may be. I need a little bit more salt and pepper so people take me more seriously. Whatever that may be, right? But what is that goal in all? Is it authentic to your personality, right? I am a go-getter from a perspective of I don't like to quit. There is as little quit in my personality as I can allow to be there. I have to lose every once in a while. Again, I got a ring. I'm married, and it's really heavy, so I have to lose. Every once in a while, she's very good about making it seem like I win, so I leave her alone. But you got to be able to say, okay, what is the real goal, and what is enough? Okay. So we're going to touch a little bit more on the security stuff for a second, because that's just a lot of my background, right? These guys just were so tenacious in what they did. I mean, there was no, hey, I'm not feeling well today, I'm going to leave you out there. There was no, hey, I recognize you're having a hard time. It was suck it up. We're going to take this backpack and we're going to go hike 12 miles and go do this thing in the rain or whatever it may be. And there's a Navy SEAL that has now made this a lot more famous. So I'm going to kind of use his phrasing a little bit more than what my friends used to use. But the statement of good, right? Are you having a bad day? What's going on? Somebody comes and complains to me. And it's, again, not to be insensitive to anybody's needs or anything like that, but this is more of a self question when you come and ask it. Yeah, that client came in and yelled at me. Good. What did they yell at you about so we can learn not to do that again? How did you handle it? Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed this morning? My hair got the cowlick going up or something like that. Good, I'm going to remember tomorrow, because I didn't like walking around with that, but I'm going to wake up earlier. That's good. Did I fail at that thing? Did I let somebody down? Good. You're not going to do it again. You're going to take from this and you're going to learn from it, and we're going to move forward. That is probably, again, from a personality perspective and being authentic, is does that match what I'm trying to do? Is it good, or is it actually bad? I would pose to you that there are no bad things. If you had a bad day, that's how you identify that tomorrow is going to be good. Okay? The next thing is the acceptance of self-worth. So once we get down from the good part, it's the acceptance of, what am I really worth to somebody, right? I'm not worth $1 million to somebody. Maybe my wife on a really good day. We're just going to continue to pick on her. But what is that value, and what are you willing to give up? Obviously, everybody here has now experienced the COVID years. Hopefully, I don't think we have any infants in the crowd. But during the COVID years, a lot of folks switched jobs. They maybe decided to take pay cuts. Maybe they accelerated their job. Maybe they took a different position somewhere. Maybe they took a different opportunity. When you're doing that, you, consciously or subconsciously, are making the choice of self-worth and the acceptance of that. So when you're doing that, and you're saying, okay, somebody offered me $200,000. That sounds great, but now I got to work nights. And according to my personal compass, right, that means I'm not spending dinners with the wife, or if I had kids, I don't get to see them. I don't get to go to sporting events. So maybe that's not the job for me. Maybe I need to take the $150,000 job to work during the day. That's an acceptance of self. Because there's less people willing to do that night shift, it's worth more. So when you're going through this, and I know I'm coming from a monetary perspective, it's almost like I'm an accountant for a day job. But when you're going through all of this stuff, you've got to start thinking, what is really my value? And I can tell you from failing at some friendships, I can tell you failing sometimes as a husband. I'm going to be better, right? I'm going to be good. to, I've had 3 startups that have not gone great, right? It's not all sunshine and roses. Not everything I touch, I'm not a Midas man for sure. But it's identifying what happened there and why. And can we make it better, and can we try again? We're going to get knocked off the horse. Hopefully it's like a Shetland pony or something, so it's not a big fall for us. But you're going to get knocked off. It's how do you get back up, and how do we strive forward, and does that follow, again, your self-value? For me, in accounting, is very, very humbling day in and day out to get calls from people that are, they could make $700,000. And all of a sudden they're like, do we need to file bankruptcy because I just lost my job and I wasn't thinking about it? To a single mom of 3 living out of a garage during COVID because she needed to rent her house to pay the bills. I mean, that's a real story. So it's trying to identify, okay, I'm comfortable, right? Everybody compares themselves to everybody else. But let's not put somebody else down if we don't understand what's going on. They're going to come from a different perspective. And can you, from your self-acceptance way, help them in some manner? From my perspective, again, with the community, going down to the team, going down to the internal ring, and then going down to the self-awareness, what ring am I at? How am I going to identify how I'm going to help somebody here? Because that's the crumb, right, for me, is there's always going to be another dollar out there, right? Whether it's in accounting or something like that, there's going to be another dollar that I can get. But can I sacrifice that dollar, whether it's somebody else needs the dollar, maybe somebody else just needs the discount, maybe somebody just needs me to listen to them, and that's just the time. And can I identify that quickly enough with the little pie chart that I possess to say, this is how we're going to play chess, right? We're going to move your pawns over here, and we're going to use your main pieces to get you to that goal if you know where that goal is. Any questions? No heckling from the Teresa? It's coming? So one thing I'm going to end with here is the economics of value, okay? So, and I can see Landon. Okay, so economics with our economic advisor up there. So economics of value, to me, from, again, those 2 main points, is going to be what value am I adding to the goal? And I know I keep harping on those 2 things. But from the manipulation of what does the employee need, what does the client need, how is that going to move us forward? What's the next ring? Right now we're in a hiring momentum for my firm. I don't know if you guys know this, but accounting is a slightly dying industry. There's not a lot of people going in. It's really fun and exciting. But when we're identifying new employees to come in, what we're trying to do is we're trying to listen. Who are you? What are you doing? What value do you think you can add? Where do you want to go? Right? Do you want to own part of this company eventually? We're talking to folks that are coming in as in reception, saying, we're going to give you a path if this is where you wanted to go. To give them that ownership, to give them that role. So our economics with that is we're trying to invest in our people to give them that pathway so that hopefully they won't struggle quite as much as I struggled on my way up. But it's also, again, provide the opportunity. So we've got that community base. We're going to give them the pathway. We're going to give them the opportunity. And then we're going to offer them to be part of the team. And once they're part of that team, they can't become one of the internal people, but once they're part of that team, then they can develop their own ring. And they can see, this is how I'm viewing success. This is how I'm accepting what my value is, right? I can't pay somebody $100,000 unless they bring $100,000 of value. And it's that open conversation that we have with folks. On the client side, when we talk to clients, if you've got that $1 million dream, that's great. My job is going to be to bring you back down to maybe more reality and say, look, you're in your first year of business. Let's focus on making a profit. All right? We could sell $1 million of stuff, but if it costs us $2 million, we lost some money there. So what's really the goal? Where are we trying to do? What is your value? You would be surprised how many folks that I have come in that their value, they have zero idea of what their value is, right? And to me, that doesn't mean that they're a bad business owner or anything like that. That means they need to slow the train down. If you're doubling every year, that you're doing a fantastic job, doing whatever you're doing, you're an employee or your own boss, that's great. My hat is off to you. But again, if you don't know where are we putting the money, how are we putting the money there, what's my real value? Are you being part of your community? Are you being part of your team? Are you providing opportunities to other people to then swell? Because at some point you're going to hit that ceiling and you're not going to have anywhere to go because you have limited your rings. Again, Michael Solomon, Accounting Personalized. Any questions from the gallery? Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Miss Laura.
In your pie chart, what are the two emotions?
What are the two emotions?
Please.
I probably indifference and anger if we had to pick two. Yeah. So, anybody else? Yes, Mr. Landon.
Other than chamber events, where in the community have you found the most benefit of being an active member?
Oh, excellent question. So, I'm going to go into a little bit of a more in-depth story to answer that. So we transplanted here. We are not originally from Gainesville. Spent most of my career in North Carolina. We transplanted here right before the pandemic and really started this company off mostly in the pandemic. So what we were doing was anybody that wanted to talk to us, we had an open door policy. So we were going around to businesses that I knew were struggling because they either weren't considered essential, thank you, Ms. Teresa, essential, or they didn't know how to fill out their PPP work, if they had that. And we were just trying to go and be open to the community. Not that everybody used us, it's just that we were open there. From that, I started getting invited to, hey, we're having a grand opening over here, whether it was with the chamber or not with the chamber. Hey, we've got this new product, can you come test it? I guess I was a guinea pig for a lot of folks. And then early in the years, especially in 2020, for a lot of the blue collar stuff, you could have found me on a roof. You could find me like actually putting up drywall for some of these folks. If you were a client of mine, I was willing to come and help. Because again, that community side of, one, I think it's funny that the accountant comes out and lays a sheet of drywall and it's probably all crooked. Don't make a comment, Shelley. But it was, if you had an employee call out sick, we were there. You call, we're there. Our policy to this date, we've got a little more than 2,400 clients. We operate in every state other than the state of California. And I have clients in every state, and I did have to do a free tax return in Alaska to say that. I've got clients in every state other than the state of California. So the way that we did that was referral and being available. You call, you text, you hear from us within 24 hours. You email, you hear from us in 72 hours. That doesn't mean I'm going to answer your question fully. It doesn't mean I'm going to solve your problem at that time. But you're going to know that I'm paying attention to you. And you're going to know that if you're 100% in, I'm 100% in. And from that, our interaction with the community has grown. Thank you for the question. Yes, ma'am.
What did you find was the value of being out there and like laying drywall and all that stuff instead of just being a gopher that only comes out of groundhog stuff?
So the hilarity part to that would be I tend to put on weight when I sit at my office. I don't know about any of you. So I liked going out, but it also gave me, and I actually asked a lot of clients at certain junctions, and I do it every year. I ask a certain handful of clients to come out, and it's really to educate me as to what the profession is doing, right? So as an accountant, we just sit behind a computer screen, right? It's almost like a luxury service. To a lot of people, it's a necessary service, but it's almost like a luxury service. But if you're just coming in and I have no idea or no concept of how your business operates or what you do, whether that's a tow truck driver or coming and shaving a dog or something like that, then I'm not going to add that much value to you when we're having the conversation. I'm relying in that 50-50 relationship very heavily on what you're telling me to then try to interpret that into accounting. So the it was a two-prong approach. One is help the client out. Second is add value to us to say, what is really going on? Let me understand this industry. Let me understand kind of this practice. And are you doing something differently? That way, if you're doing something different, I can identify that. And as long as I'm not using any trademark infringement or anything like that, I can help the next client that has a similar issue. Because everybody's different. But if I don't have that experience, I'm not going to be able to identify a solution for you. I'm just going to say, well, I don't know. Let me look on Google, which you can do yourself. You can ask ChatGPT how to do it today. But if I'm not bringing that value to you and saying, well, yes, I know you looked on Google, but that didn't really work for like the 5 other people that tried it. It might work for you. I'm not saying we don't do it, but maybe we try it in this manner. Maybe we start looking at this demographic. Maybe we pivot in this way. Miss Ann.
How would you say that your leadership style has evolved? Like, what was that pivotal moment for you where you turned into a leader?
Yeah. So I do not self-identify as a leader. I'm a firm believer that the smartest guy in the room or woman in the room is the one that, yes, when you're in there, Miss Ann, or the smartest person in the room, let me rephrase that, is the one that listens to everybody else, right? You still have value even when you're listening because you can take all of those different components. And I'm not going to look at her because she'll smile at me, but it's probably shortly after I got married because I had to listen to things. So I had to learn how to listen and say, look, I know I have a mug that says Michael always writes Solomon. I got a shirt and everything that you tried to make fun of me with, but I'm not, right? I have to take somebody else's idea and I have to say, okay, how are we going to implement this? I'm going to implement like little things that I know, but then I'm asking questions. The famous accounting answer is, it depends. I get clients that come in all the time and they hate it when they come in because they ask me a question, they want a direct answer, and I have to go, well, it depends. What are we trying to do? So yes, it is a cop-out in many ways, but a lot of it is listening to the other person. And I think when I started to learn how to do that, that helped me escalate my position in those conversations.